Kurt Farquhar is the composer behind the impactful, beautiful, and at times very tense score of the History Channel's miniseries Abraham Lincoln, directed by Malcolm Venville. I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby. And Kurt, before we talk too much about the series, I'm just curious about you personally. Do you remember the first song you composed, or what age you were when you realized you sort of had this gift of music?
Well, I remember literally hearing music in my head since I was about 3 years old. It was just something that it seemed a little weird to me. And as I was growing up, it never really stopped. Music is going on in my head right now. It's a lovely score. And I wrote my first symphony when I was 12 years old. And it's which some people find remarkable, but it's not that it was so great. What was great is that the effort that I decided to do this, and that from making that effort, that became the point of deciding that, I can do this, and learning that this is something that is in my wheelhouse. Just hearing music all the time isn't enough, being able to put it together and organize thoughts in a way that is intriguing and enticing and delightful is a special gift that I'm thankful for every day that I get a chance to go to work.
Do you think it's a gift that you needed to get to this level of success, or could you have gotten there if you just worked hard enough and played instruments? Because for someone like me, I mean, I played an instrument in high school. I can't fathom creating an arrangement. So to me, it feels like you must have some sort of gifts that takes more than just studying.
Well, yeah, I think that I spent a lot of time studying music, and I spent most of my childhood studying it, and I have spent all of my adult years trying to forget that shit. It's because I've always had the question, what came first, the music theory teacher's teachings of music, or somebody did something musically and folks then wanted to describe what it is that they just heard. And I believe it's the latter instead of the former. I believe that living your life and being in touch with your emotions musically is more important than the study of why these notes went this way. I mean, I guess that's good if you need to be able to do the same thing over or differently or recall something. But, Claude Debussy was kicked out of school for what he won the Prix de Rome for doing the exact same things that he won the Prix de Rome the very next year. So that doesn't tell you, hey, let's go study and have everybody tell me what I should do, as much as it is following your heart, following your passion, following the emotions. I mean, especially when it comes to music to picture, our essentially our whole job is to tell people what to feel. I always put it this way: a camera going down a dark hallway is not scary. It's not scary until the music goes.
Yeah.
And now Pookie's getting ready to get off.
So walk me through that process of composing a series. I mean, obviously the short version of composing a series like Abraham Lincoln, because it's almost 6 hours long, and it's a drama. It's a drama documentary. It's very well acted, but there's also this great input from various historians that are in there, even President Barack Obama. So do you watch it without music first and then get an idea, or are you composing music beforehand, or how does that all work together?
It was a rather lengthy process. The director, Malcolm Venville, who's just a genius. He's just such a special individual that he was so passionate about the project. He knew what he wanted to hear. He had incredible ideas of things to just inspire me. musical and non-musical. We got together and chatted for lunch, and just being able to pick his brain and get inside his head of what was a big moment for him, what was very impactful for him, what was how we should feel about this character or versus that character. Also, the element that was of a great deal of importance to me and carried a lot of weight is that this one, when you first see it, you turn it on, you don't think you're watching a documentary. You think you're just watching a film.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start hearing people's voices coming over like a narrator. And then all of a sudden you see a person in a room talking like in a traditional documentary. And then a scene starts from what they were talking about and is being acted out, and the voices start going away, and the dialogue from written dialogue from a scene starts, and it's so seamless the way he did it. You don't know where one ended and the other started. And it was important for me to not feel like, okay, here we're doing a score, here we're doing this documentary. I mean, it had to have a cohesion and a connection to both sides.
And when you're blending it, is there, like for me, there felt like there was a transition between even him as a child to him as an adult. There's like, it felt very stressful, and you can feel that in the music, and then the war, and then at the end there's this kind of symphony where it feels more hopeful. Is that sort of a progression that you worked for, and what does that change the instruments between what you're working towards?
Yes, yeah, it does. And I tell you, a part, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a part to me that was very important was the childhood era, which I don't know that a lot of people knew. I mean, they knew some of it, that he came from, meager beginnings, but they really show it graphically.
Yeah.
The idea that two young children were left out alone in the woods. I mean, in the woods. I don't know that I could for months. Where they had to hunt for food, they had to grow things, they had to figure out how they're going to get through. I mean, the average person would be scared to leave their kid overnight, and these kids couldn't go to the 7-Eleven or to the Ralphs, I mean, it's and to me, I thought that had so much to do with who he ultimately became, losing his mother at a young age, and this obsession with death, the stepmother coming in, and that relationship with the stepmother, who you have to ask yourself, would he be the same person had she not come into the picture? That's a really weighty question. And I thought the music that we played when the stepmother came in, it's kind of haunting. It's mystical, because I felt like that there was a connection between these two that was really special, and you see it recalled later in various areas of his life. That this mystical connection, that I think that goes all the way back to her.
Right. And then what sort of feeling do you need to emote and to bring up the volume for like those war scenes, and as we get towards the end of the documentary where things are getting louder, more tense?
Yeah, it was a lot of energy, a lot of intensity. We went for much more aggressive, bigger sounds, and you've seen things that were used earlier that were recalled again later, and very angular and jagged percussion rhythms that were used in it. I found, and being an old drummer myself, I thought that was kind of exciting and fun way to go after it.
What is, like, if you had to pick like an instrument that is like the most doom sounding and scary, what would it be? And what's the most hopeful?
That's a good question. You know, you know something. Bassoon
Oh,
can be very dark and very wrenching, and bass clarinet, and I used bass clarinet a number of times in this score, and it's almost haunting, and it gets inside your soul a bit. Hopeful. Uh, uh, Flutes and violins give me a sense of hope, and you see that in a number of scenes that we did there. That very important scene was during when he went to New York and was speaking for the first time, and they thought, oh well, here's this yokel from the West in Illinois, which is my hometown. I said, I don't think of Illinois as the West, but okay. And he starts in the beginning of the score being very, sort of nervous and doesn't have his footing, and then he starts building, and he starts getting a sense of himself and a sense of what he wanted to say and how he wanted to emote to people, which was really quite interesting. One of the things that I took from this documentary, because I'm a real history buff myself, I really was so excited about getting this particular project. As Malcolm would always says, Lincoln, it's the one, right? It's the one. That's the one. Everything else is second. Lincoln, one. That's it. You got to get into that. And just what he had, the level of difficulty that he had to maneuver with what was going on, coming into office, where people literally would a plot to kill him on his way, on the train, on the way to it.
yeah.
You can't even wrap your brain around that these days. And that not people are yelling about, we're angry and we should secede and don't mess with Texas and all of this. It's way past that. It's like, yeah, we're leaving and we're going to shoot you on the way out the door. This is it. These were incredible odds and most of the people around him, even in his own cabinet, didn't think that he had what it took. They didn't think that he was much of anything, and guess what? Based on his political career at that point, what was there to tell you that he was going to be this great person?
Right.
It only the circumstances and how he responded to them is answered that question of how great he really, really was. So it's and the sense that he evolved over many years was really, really powerful. He evolved on the slave question over a period of time, and he didn't come complete, which in reality, that's what all of us are. We don't come complete, and if we're lucky, we evolve. I'm darn sure lucky that I'm not who I was when I was 16. So, and that I have evolved a little bit.
Oh, so you've been doing this, successfully for over 30 years.
Yes.
People, whether they know it or not, they've probably heard your work. King of Queens, Moesha, Girlfriends, Sister, Sister. You've done a lot of comedies. What's the biggest difference between doing a comedy and something that's more serious like this? Or is there not much of a difference? Is it all just the same for you?
The one thing I will say about comedies, and especially like the situation comedies, the average situation comedy like a King of Queens has about 1 minute and 10 seconds of music. Well, 1 minute and 10 seconds wouldn't get you through the first 25% of one of the Lincoln cues. What I find hard about comedy that no musician sat there as a young kid saying, something, I'm gonna figure out how to write 3 and 5 second funny music. That'll get the girls.
Yeah. So how did you end up doing those?
I ended up broke and on the streets.
Okay.
You know, I was homeless. I was things were not going well. I had an opportunity, and that opportunity was a chance to write a theme song for a sitcom. I ended up getting the end title. The show ended up not getting picked up, but was, as luck would have it, got aired solely because there was a writer's strike that year. And the networks were trying to air new material. So the only thing they had was all of these tons of pilots that they had shot that year, even the ones that they didn't pick up. So they just aired it. I was watching watching TV. I was finally had gotten somewhat up on my feet and had an apartment. And I saw one day a guy that was in the show that I'd written. I said, "Oh, he's doing a show. Wow, he's working. Good for him. Good for him." And then a few seconds later, I see another girl that was in the show, and I said, "Oh, wow, she's working. Oh, good for her. Good for her." My heart's breaking at this point, and then it goes to commercial, and it says, "Living Large will be back in a moment," and I'm like, "What? That's the show I did." And I called up, and it was Stephen J. Cannell's company had produced it, and I called up and asked, "Hey, I see that my music was on the show," and the guy snapped at me and said, "Oh, are you going to sue us too?" And I said, "No, I was just wondering, well, my music was on there. Do I get paid or anything for that?" And he says, and he calmed down immediately. It was so cool. And he said, "Yeah, just come over here. I'll have some paperwork for you. You sign the paperwork, I'll give you a check." And and I was just astounded by that. And I went there, I got my check, and I said, "Wow, this is a career like that." I couldn't believe, first of all, I couldn't believe how much money it was. I'd never seen that much money at once, ever, And it turned out that I had a knack for it. It turned out that I connect with it so much right now that often I'm asked, what would you rather do, right? Have the big hit record or have a big hit TV show or movie? And to me, it's clear. I'd rather have a TV show or movie. I just, I love the collaborative effort in it. I love the process that you go through. I love all of working with all of these really, truly smart people who are all trying to march in the same direction to tell this story. I think that my skills are perfect for this, as my brother had told me years before, but I didn't listen to. So,
But you had done the work and you were prepared for the opportunity when it came along. So that's the moral of the story.
oh yeah. I mean, I've been writing and polishing my writing for years and years and years. I never really thought of myself as a composer. I wouldn't. For years, I had years of television shows, and like literally 5 years into having my own series on the air, I still wouldn't call myself a composer. I just thought, John Williams is a composer, Beethoven's a composer. I'm not a composer. I'm just Kurt. I'm this guy that can do a few things. I still didn't think of myself as that for a long, long time.
Wow. Well, Kurt Farquhar, thank you for chatting with Gold Derby today about your work on Abraham Lincoln. Best of luck throughout this upcoming award season, and to all of our viewers, head over to goldderby.com, make your awards predictions, and check out more interviews with top contenders like Kurt here. And Kurt, thanks again for chatting with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to get a chance to talk with you.